Claudine Hemingway is a descendant of famed writer Ernest Hemingway. We bumped into each other at a party and decided to team up and dive deep into French history, but with a twist, by bringing a spotlight to those lesser known creatives in France. This is History with a Hemingway. Welcome back, guys. I'm back with Claudine, and today we're talking about the Three Glorious Days. And if you're like me, you have no idea what that means. So Claudine's going to teach us something new today.
Yeah, well, just 2 weeks ago, we talked about the Bastille, and we talked about because how that fits into the 14 Juillet or Bastille Day, as most North Americans and English know it. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about that actual column, but we have to back up a lot first because we have to talk about why there is a column there. And it goes to an event that happened that is one of the revolutions. There's many revolutions in France. Most people think of it of just usually just know the one big one that ended up with Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette losing their head. But there are quite a few revolutions that we've had here. And this one, it was called the Three Glorious Days because it occurred on July 27th, 28th, and 29th of 1830.
Very glorious.
So it was short. It was 3 short days. It started March 2nd in 1830 when Charles X, the king, threatened to suspend the Chamber of Deputies. And the chamber was not very happy with his how he was quite mad and he was quite authoritative when he made this proclamation. So on May 16th, he came back again and said he was going to dissolve them. Nothing happened until July 25th. And July 25th, he did 4 ordinances. One of them was dissolving the deputies. The other was reducing the civic body, to also form a new election. And the fourth one was to censor the press.
Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good.
No. And that last one, that's really the key one to this whole revolution. So on the next day, on July 26th, it was published that that they were going to stop 50 different newspapers from printing anything. The journalists, of course, and the printers were outraged, and they were on their way. He was going to start sending people to go there and actually physically take the presses.
Wow, well, that's one way to do it. Just take away the printing press.
And these things were massive back then. I mean, if you've ever seen it's not like a printer at home. These things were huge, huge, that fit like an entire room.
Wow.
And so all of the journalists and the printers decided to fight back. The police arrived at the offices and to take the presses, and the newspapers and the workers started screaming and yelling and, barricading the doors and not letting them in. By that afternoon, one by one, the editors, owners, journalists, everybody started to gather in front of the Hotel de Ville and also the Place Vendôme and Place de la Bastille, and started to try to gather every citizen up in this with them at the same time.
That's no small task. That's great.
No, this is no small task. No. So on July 28th, in front of the Hotel de Ville, the Garde Royale were very outnumbered because the crowd was so massive, and the angry crowds gathered there and used cobblestones as projectiles. Back then, up until much later into the 20th century, the cobblestones, and these things are like 5 inches by 5 inch squares, very heavy, and they used to just be sitting there on sand. So they weren't even now because after May 1968, they are now like cemented and blacktopped in, and so you can't just pick them up. But back then you could just pick them up.
That was pretty easy. Like now when they're fighting the police, they shoot fireworks at them.
Yeah, that was the newest thing, was the fireworks, was this last time. That's how I knew one was coming, because I could smell fireworks. But they started building the barricades. They took anything and everything they could find. Built this all up in front of the Hotel de Ville, and there was a young painter that saw this that we'll get back to, who's one of my favorite ones to mention, but we'll get back to it later. But so everybody gathered up in front of here, and they started to just scream and yell and try to stop the police. And basically, this went for 3 days. So up until the 29th, on the 29th, on the last day, the police and everybody knew that they weren't going to win this fight. And out at Saint Cloud, which is where Charles X was hiding, he decided with all of his deputies that on the 30th, he was going to abdicate. And on the next day, on July 31st, he signed his abdication that he was no longer in power.
I mean, I guess he kind of had to at that point.
Yeah, you kind of had to. Now, Charles X is the brother of Louis XVI. Louis XVI had two brothers that would become king after he died. So later on, there was Louis XVIII, and then comes Charles X. We've talked about Charles X before because he built his own museum in the Louvre that was called the Musée Charles X. It was his own little museum, and it's a really cool part to see now because the ceilings are all painted and it's gorgeous. We've talked about that before, so I'll put the link on my website. But so here is the family, the family of Louis XVI, which I'm not sure why they thought maybe that was a good idea. Like, hey, we just got tired and we hate all of the kings. Oh, and then we have Napoleon. Now we're going to go back to the Bourbon family that got us into all this problems.
Yeah, let's just revisit that.
Let's just go back there. I mean, we like to repeat history, but sometimes it takes us a little bit longer to repeat those mistakes. But then after this, so he is Charles X abdicates. So then the Duc d'Orléans, who is the cousin now of Louis XVI and of Charles X, he is Louis Philippe I. He accepts it, and on August 7th, he becomes the king of the French. Instead of the king of France, he is the king of the French. So because he decided he was the citizen king.
Okay, that sounds a little racist.
Yeah, so he ruled for 18 years, and in February of 1848, which we'll have to talk about another time, he also saw the end of his demise. He saw his demise with another revolution.
I think there's a common theme here.
Yeah, there's a common theme. So when we just had these last ones about the retirement age, there was you might have seen the posters around town where they had Macron, but it was his head on like the body of Louis XIV.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then there was somebody that spray painted on a wall that Macron is going to end up like Louis XIV. I think they meant to say Louis XVI because Louis XIV reigned for like over 74 years. They probably meant Louis XVI.
Someone needs to check their French history.
Somebody might want to double check their notes. So all of this happened, and we talked a couple weeks ago about the Bastille. And so when you go there today and you go to the Place de la Bastille, there's a really beautiful column in the very middle of it with a gorgeous golden statue on the top. But most people might think that it's for the Bastille prison itself, but it's not. It's actually was created for the 3 glorious days.
I had no idea. You learned something new every day.
On the base of it, it says, to the glory of the French citizens who armed and fought for the defense of civil liberties in the memorable days of July 27th, 28th, 29th of 1830.
Well, there you go, people. Now you know what you're looking at.
Now you know what you're looking at. And it's really gorgeous. They just, in the last 2 years, completely redid that whole area. They've extended it out. So there's a huge area that's, it's all a huge pavers that you could walk around. Last time I was out there was people rollerblading and roller skating and people are running around it, where it used to be out in the middle of like basically a turnaround. And there was, it was kind of like going to the Arc de Triomphe where you're going to take your life in your own hands getting across it. But now it's this huge area where you could go and hang out, and you could really go there and look at the column and just get all of the beautiful details about it. But when it was created, they decided on July 6, 1831, by a royal ordinance that they were going to make a funerary monument to the victims of the 3 glorious days. So on July 27th, 1831, Louis Philippe laid the very first stone. The original design was by architect Jean-Antoine Alvonier, and work began not until 1835, and it was a different architect that was then finishing it, that's Joseph Louis Duc. And it was completed in 1840, just in time for the 10-year anniversary of the Revolution, and 8 years before the next one.
I love that when I'm going to go by this place, it's going to be so much different than just being like, oh, there's that,
I know, you
long
could just listen
pole.
to us again. I've done that before on my way to places that I'm like, I just need a refresher of the information I'm going to talk about.
Yeah,
I listen to myself,
exactly. Fresh from yourself.
which is a little weird, but it works.
It works.
Um, it's really beautiful. If you look at it, there's a lot of different symbolism on it, which is really cool. It's a Corinthian capital, so that's the one that's the most beautiful. That's all has, like all of the leaves coming down. It's inscribed with palms. It has crowns on it, oak branches, the arms of the city of Paris, the Gaelic rooster, and also the lion, which the lion is also on there because it's the astronomical symbol for that period of July, which is Leo.
It was always astrology. I went to an astrology thing the other day with some friends, and they were like, they used to always ask their astrologer before they went to war, before they planted, before they did anything,
Yeah.
because they were so into the astrology.
Well, and we could do a whole nother one on that, but that's a thing. When I take people into churches and other places, and people, and even in the Louvre, in the Gallery des Palais, you've got all of the astrological symbols in there. And a lot of people ask me why. And it's like, well, this is something that goes back thousands of years.
Yeah.
And it's funny now that a lot of people think it's a bunch of hooey, but when you see how far this goes back and on what important buildings that the astrological signs are on, there's something to it.
Oh yeah, they've been studying this stuff for a long time, and it was totally connected with the church and the king, which is fascinating.
It is. There's Taurus, the bull. That's the best one. But that one, there is, some, around. But I just the other day was at the Musée de l'Armée, and there was an exhibit that was closing this week about basically the wars of religion. And there was this sword that belonged to Henry IV. And on the blade of the sword were these little tiny oval medallions, and each one of them were one of the astrological symbols.
That's wild. Yeah, I need to keep an eye out for them more. And it's like there's so much going on there too that you literally need an expert to study to tell you what the heck is going on.
Yeah, you do. And it is really interesting, but it definitely is. They used to consult those kinds of things. Catherine de Medici had her seer, Nostradamus was one of her seers, which is crazy because it's Nostradamus.
Yeah.
But, it's a big thing. And then now, there's things that you could follow now, and they'll say, like some big thing happens, like something happens on Wall Street, and these people are like, oh no, this is where we are in this period, because this is in this and this is in that. This is when things like that happen.
Yeah, it's wild.
Sometimes you don't want to know in advance because then it's just kind of scary.
Yeah, exactly. I limit myself.
Yeah. But back to the column.
Yeah. Sideswipe.
On the column itself, it is the July column, and the barrel of the column, which is the whole part that goes up, is it's separated into 3 separate parts. And on these, it has 4 different, what they kind of call necklaces that go around it. And those 4 necklaces, then when you look at it, you see 3 different parts because of 3 different parts for 3 different days.
This whole 3 thing is a common theme.
It is. And that's always my favorite number too.
And
glorious. My man painted the painting about this. So it's all, it's all full circle. So see, it's still about astrology. But on February 25th, 1848, that is when later there'd be another time when the column would come into play. And that's because when Louis Philippe was knocked out of power, they carried his throne from the palace, the Tuileries, all the way over to the Bastille and set fire to it.
Whoops.
So, yeah, I don't think I think at that point the ruler should have been like, we don't want to go anywhere near that place. But on the column itself, there's 504 names, and those 504 names are the people that died during this revolt. And later on, they added 190 more names to the column from that 1848 revolution as well. So you can go in there and see all of them.
Have you been in there?
I haven't. They do sometimes open it up. And the one time I was going to do it, I went there and I went straight to the column, and that wasn't where you were supposed to meet them. So
Oops.
I'm like, where is everybody? So I'm supposed to go again next month. They do open it every once in a while so people go, but you go down. You don't get to go up to the top. You used to be able
Ah,
to go up to the top, but you can't do that now. Um,
boo.
but you can go down below, and I have a book that's got some pictures of what it looks like down below. It's pretty cool. And underneath it, so the whole underneath that is the Canal Saint-Martin goes by the edge of it. And at one point, when they were building all this up and they were building the canal, they had this a whole lot of other space underneath it. And so they when they inaugurated the column on July 28th, 1840, on the 10-year anniversary, that is when they interred the 504 people.
Oh,
But a
I want to
few others
visit.
are there too.
I want to
So
visit it now. That sounds really
yeah,
cool.
so now when you go there, like I always have, it's not really a superstition. I just think it's like out of respect. But when I go to cemeteries, I can't step on like the gravestone or even what is like the grass in front of it because I feel like
Mhm.
I'm stepping on somebody.
Yeah, I think a lot
So
of us do
now
that.
I'm not gonna want to walk around the Bastille because I know that underneath it are people.
It's a giant grave.
It's a giant grave. But there's a few other things underneath there. And we don't know this for sure, but I even have a friend that's Egyptologist, and she said that this is what happened. But after Napoleon came back from Egypt and they brought a few mummies with them, they had them in the Louvre. And one night, in the middle of the night, they went and buried them under the garden that is next door, next to the Louvre, not the Tuileries, but just one of the gardens on the side. And they dug them up, and they are supposed to be underneath the Bastille column too.
Oh, wow, that's even creepier.
I know. So there are a few mummies down there, which at this point, those people have been dead for 200 years. I think they're mummies as well. But when
It's
you look at it, it's really cool. The very first base of it is done out of red marble. The second level is done out of white marble, and around it, it has 24 heads of lions. Those lions have are fountains. The water comes out of it. The third base is also white marble, and there's 24 medallions that include Medusa, the Charter of 1830, Balance and Justice, and the July Cross. The base of the column is all bronze, and it is topped with 4 Gaelic roosters that were done by Antoine Louis Barry, who is a good friend of the gentleman that made the big painting we'll talk about. But Barry was the best animal sculptor there was at the time, and he did also some of the lions that are actually at the Louvre as well. The column barrel itself is 23 meters high, and it includes 21 circular drums. So 21 of these rings were created to go up. I mentioned the 4 necklaces that divided into 3 parts, symbolizing the 3 glorious days, and that is where all the 504 names are on it, in gold.
That's wild.
It's so cool. On the collar itself, there are 16 lion heads that actually light up on the inside.
Ooh, they light up.
Mhm. But at the very top of it is this beautiful golden genie, and it is up there, and it's the torch of civilization. And in his left hand is actually a man. And usually when you see these genies like this, they're always women. And this one was done as a man. It was done by the sculptor Auguste Dumont. He was born August 4th, 1801, and he's a 5th generation sculptor in his family.
Wow.
The sculpture itself, in his left hand, he's holding some broken chains. So this is all about, freedom. And for once, it's not symbolizing America stepping on the chain of Africa,
Oh, wow.
which
Yeah.
you see a lot in Paris. Auguste Dumont also did the Napoleon that's on the top of the Vendôme column. And he also did the statue of Blanche de Castille that's in the Jardin de Luxembourg.
Now you guys have a lot more to look out for.
A lot more to look out for. He died on January 20th, 1884 at the number 25 Quai Conti, which is also the Institut de France. So I need to go walk down there because it's very close to me and do some inspection. But what I also learned is that he didn't get married until he was 80 years old, and then he died at 84.
What?
Personally, I think that's probably the way to do it. If I do it again, I'm going to wait till I'm like 82. That's what I'm going to do. But it is really beautiful. It went under a whole renovation. The first time I came to Paris 7 years ago, it was on my list of something to see, and I got there and the entire thing was covered in scaffolding, which is what happens when you come to Paris. But then when they finally unveiled it, you saw the genie on top. It's all gold and shiny and beautiful. There is a bronze version of it in the Louvre that was actually created after Dumont's death from his original form. But you could see that in the Louvre. So you could get up a little bit closer to it and, inspect it on your own. But speaking of the Louvre, as I always am, they're in the Louvre, and this is the whole reason why I was even interested in finding anything more about this subject, and this was many, many years ago, is because, and we have breached on this little painting before, but in the Louvre by, of course, you know who, Eugène Delacroix, is the painting called Liberty Leading the People. And that statue that painting, is what everybody thinks, and even school books and everything else, when they talk about the French Revolution and Bastille Day, they always use this picture, a picture of the painting of Delacroix. But as you all know, dear listeners, that was not how it happened, because that painting, it goes to the date of the July 28th, 1830.
You know better from Claudine.
You know better. And for you, make sure that every one of you has to tell one other person so we can fix this, because everybody thinks that everybody uses it all over. Everything you see. I've even seen like actual like French consulates use that for Bastille Day.
Shame on them.
I know, exactly. So when Delacroix heard that they were having this on July 28th in front of the Hotel de Ville, he saw it because he just was living just down the street at the Quai Voltaire, not very far. And he went down there and saw it. And he wrote a letter to his brother. And he said, if I can't fight for my country, I'll paint for it. So he decided to create this masterpiece that it depicts that event. And it is actually titled Liberty Leading the People, 28th of July, 1830. So it has it all in there. It's all in the title. He had just seen his good friend, Theodore Géricault, 10 years before that, painted the amazing Raft of the Medusa, which was a current event painting. And at that time, history paintings is basically in the lexicon of art, like the pinnacle of painting, subjects is all about history. But the difference with Romanticism is that they were painting basically current history, as current as it could be for you to also then paint this gigantic painting.
Mm-hmm.
So that people were a little bit freaked out about, because before that in neoclassicism, you had, David and Gros and those guys painting these scenes of from Roman times and Greek times. And, David did his painting of the Sacre de Napoleon and his coronation. So that was getting closer to this is actually something that just recently happened. But when Delacroix saw that, he decided he wanted to do something like that. So for 3 months, from September 20th till mid-December 1830, he sketched and painted all of his sketches of the idea of what he wanted. You could see one of these sketches. And when we say sketches in this term, it's not you sitting down with a pencil and sketching it. Sketch just means it could also be a clay or a terracotta statue. It's just, it could be an actual painting with oil paints. It's just because it's not the final piece, we call it a sketch. And there's one of them that they do have on display in the Musée Delacroix, which is really neat. And when you see it, you see how the flag is going the other way. And I love seeing those because you get kind of into the mind of the actual artist and see what he did to change it along the way.
Yeah, those are really cool. And I love that it's not just sketches either. It's like you said, it can be like clay and things like that.
Yeah, so it does get confusing sometimes when you tell people sketches and then it's like, a 9 foot tall
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, terracotta piece. Um, but he did this, it was displayed when he did it, it was displayed at the Salon of 1831 under the name of the Scene of the Barricades. It was met with a wide mix of criticism. Many thought the allegorical woman was dirty, displaying her hairy armpit and filthy feet, while the nude man had visible pubic hair right at eye
Ew.
level.
Ew.
Yeah. So you can see all that when you go. The entire scene was one of the lower and upper classes, as well as men of all ages united. And that was a difference between this revolution opposed to other revolutions. Most of the revolutions prior to this were all about the poor standing up against the monarchy and the rich. And this is the first one it was everyone. Everybody was involved in it, from the rich to the poor to the people living on the street to soldiers to the, press. Everybody was standing up against it. And that's what made this one much different. And he captures all of that in the painting. In the painting, in the background of it, you see the 2 columns of Notre Dame, which are amazing. And it's got a teeny tiny little French flag on the top of it. The figure of Liberty, which is also the figure of Marianne, which is kind of our emblem of France. She is wearing the very French hat that is also now the Olympic the Olympic mascot this year.
Is
But
that
she's
what that
holding,
is? Everyone's
yeah,
like, what is that?
it is very strange. But all of those mascots for the Olympics are always kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
But she's holding the tricolor flag, which is the French flag that we know of today. And the reason that's also important is because the tricolor came during the revolution, is when that came into play. When the Bourbons took back the throne, they changed it back to the white Bourbon flag, and then the French or the Paris flag was red and blue. So with this revolution, they were like, forget you guys, are bringing back the flag. And so that's why, with the fact that Liberty is holding that, which is why it's such a symbolic thing as well. And to this day, we still have the tricolor flag.
We love that.
But it's very strange that the Bourbon flag was just white. Like it was just like a pillowcase. I mean, basically, they could have just struck up a pillowcase and said, here's our flag. But that's what that whole, a lot of that revolution really is. Even though it was only 3 days, you have other revolutions that were like 4 years. This one was 3 days and it did a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like a lot for 3 days. I mean, they were super efficient.
Yeah, very efficient. When Delacroix painted this, he used very few colors, but specifically blue, white, and red. That's also the flag. And when you look at Marianne and Liberty, she's wearing kind of a yellow, which probably shouldn't actually be that yellow. It's just aged, a dress, and then she has a red sash around her, and then also her red hat. And then below her, there's a gentleman that's kind of is kneeling down in front of her. He's wearing a blue shirt, and he's also has red and white on, and he's looking up at her. And then everything else in the painting is pretty much like browns and black. There is one gentleman that is laying there without any pants on, nude, the one that everybody was offended by. And he's wearing one blue sock, because that was a little homage to his friend Jericho, because in the Raft of the Medusa, Jericho kept trying to paint the feet. And when they did an x-ray of the painting, they could see where there was all these different, lines for the feet. And decided to give up and just put socks on them because he was having a hard time. So Delacroix added a little homage to his friend by having the gentleman with no pants with one sock on.
I love that.
And it's a blue sock. But it's a really amazing painting. When you look at it, it also has all the Greek statuary and the goddess Victory, which is also like our girl Wing Victory. Wing Victory, though, was not there. They had not even discovered it until the year Delacroix died. So I saw one time online where somebody was saying that Delacroix would go into the Louvre and look at Wing Victory, and then that inspired him to do the painting. But the Wing Victory didn't even arrive to the Louvre until after he died in 1863. So it's not really that.
Yeah, got it.
But there was somebody that used to come into the Louvre that saw it and was quite inspired, and that is Bartoli. And Bartoli would come in there and he would see her, and it inspired him because he wanted to create this colossal statue for the Suez Canal. And the Suez Canal said, no, thank you, we don't want it. So then later on, they had an idea to give a gift to the United States, and they decided to do the Statue of Liberty. So when you look at the Statue of Liberty, that's really because of Delacroix.
It's all full circle. That's
All full circle. It is Delacroix. But it is Bartoli. You go in there into the Louvre and see this Liberty leading the people. And if you look at the Statue of Liberty, it's also the same arm. It's her same right arm.
That's wild.
It is. So the painting itself, when it did, it was purchased in 1831. And when it was purchased, he was very excited, and they bought it for 3,000 francs, which is, who knows how much that is today, probably barely anything. But it was briefly displayed in the Musée de Luxembourg. But Adolphe Thiers was worried it was going to inspire an uprising and had it taken down. And they returned it to Delacroix in 1832, which he was quite upset about it. He sent it away to his aunt, Félicité Riesner, and it stayed with her until 1848, when it was returned to the Musée de Luxembourg, and then it was hidden away again until 1855, Universal Exhibition, where it finally got to see the light of day. But they made Delacroix touch up and darken her cap and made it dark red instead of bright red. Not sure why. But they had to get special permission obtained to even have it at the exhibition. And then in 1863, it was finally returned to the public, and it was too late for him to see it because that's the year he died, on August 13th. And then it would finally go up on display in the Louvre in 1874 in the Salle Molière, which is where it is today.
That's so sad he didn't get to see the finished product.
He didn't get to see it hanging in the Louvre. Also, back then, you had to be dead for 10 years before you were hanging in the Louvre. So, it got there the same year he died. So that's pretty good. But it is going to disappear probably in the fall because it's going to be restored.
That's about time.
I am going to be devastated that I won't be able to go see it a few times a week. But they are slowly, they just are getting ready to bring back the third Delacroix large painting that's been restored. There's two already that have been restored that are stunning. And I can't wait to see Liberty back because her dress will probably be practically white. It's going to be amazing. If you go in there, there's two other paintings that have been, and the one that's the interior of a harem, the woman's shirt that she's wearing that's white is like white.
I really am enjoying watching them clean the statues outside the museum too.
They're doing those, and they did a test on those for a year, because they cleaned them and sprayed them with something, and they gave it a year, which ended up being more like 2 years because they did this before COVID. And they sprayed something on it to see if it would protect it, so all this dirt and grime and everything growing on it would stay away, and it did. So they're doing those. They've done all the way the Richelieu wing and half of the Sully wing, and now they're just on the corner of the Sully to the Denon wing yesterday. And when they get to the front side, that's where it's even worse. So the side that's right there that goes along towards the carousel, those ones are really gross because you're closer to cars.
Yeah, they're doing a really great job. It's wild what they can do.
I know, and I love to watch them, and I stand below and watch them and make videos of them and take pictures, and they look at me now, they just wave at me. But the other day I was inside with some giving a tour, and I looked out the window, and they were right outside the window, so that I got to get close and be a creeper and wave at them.
They know you now.
But I do love those. The 88 great men of France that were installed there under Napoleon III.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Well, guys, now you know a lot more about the 3 glorious days. And if anybody questions you about the 3 glorious days, you know what to say.
Claudia told me, and Delacroix painted it. That's all you need to say.
And well, make sure you head over to ClaudineHemingway.com to learn more. Check out her Patreon, join her live tours,
And tune in next week.
Thanks for listening today, guys. If you're interested in learning more about Claudine, her tours, history, and the beautiful photographs that she posts all over Instagram, tune into her website, claudinehemingway.com.